here, Half Dozen Customs. We're back out here the next morning working on this compressor. I did do some more research last night when I went inside, and the check valve that I'm finding that it says for this but doesn't match this, it just seems to me like it's just a reproduction part, and that's why it looks different than this one. So I think we're okay to go ahead and order that and get that here. The only difference between that one and this one is that this one you are able to disassemble and clean. The remanufactured part you cannot. It's a sealed unit. And that's the difference between the two. So until then, I'm going to pull this guy back out. We're going to take it apart. We're going to clean it. I watched a video on how to do it. We're going to clean it, put it back together, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull the head, and we're going to check the piston rings and make sure that they're, you know, offline from each other. I explained in last night's video the split in the ring. It says in the instruction, make sure that they're opposite ends of each other. And when I rebuilt this pump, I got it all back together and was like, oh, did I remember to do that? So it may be like that, it may not be like that. I was looking at another snap-on compressor that was similar to this that they had for a couple of years, and they were having a problem with it, and they pulled it apart, and it still had all the crosshatch marks in the cylinder. Now I rehoned this cylinder when we had it all apart, and it had the crosshatching in it. I've looked in there. I've moved the pistons around and looked inside the cylinder walls. Everything looks clean. It looks good. I don't see any scratches in it. I don't see any blemishes. Nothing looks weird. But there is no hash marks. Those hash marks are gone. So, being that we just rebuilt it, 10 months ago, and it had hash marks in it, are they still supposed to be in there or not? I don't know. But, it's possible they should be, and being that they're gone, maybe it did wear out that much. I did find a new head for it for $250. Now, I've already bought the rebuild kit that we did, 10, 11 months ago. That was $250. So if I spend another $250 and use the kit that I bought 10 months ago that's already been in use, but at that point we're at $500. So do I order another kit to put new rings in and new seals and gaskets and all that stuff? Then we'd be at $750. Well, at that price, I can buy a new pump. I looked at the pumps last night again. They came down like $200. So, last year when I was looking at them, they were around $950. They were under $1,000. I know that. Now they're at $750. So, and it's free delivery. So, I would think that if none of this is going to work, what we're doing, it's just better to buy a new pump at that point. And it is what it is. I'll keep this pump. Like I said, maybe we'll find another compressor that we can put this pump on, because it works fine other than it's spraying oil everywhere, and I can't have it spraying oil when I'm trying to paint things in here. So that's my main concern. So keeping this pump, maybe possibly putting on another compressor, maybe later on down the road, if I got an extra $500 that I can throw at it, we'll you know, we'll put a new head on it and we'll get another rebuild kit and we'll rebuild this one, you know, and then that way I have a spare pump if I ever need it. I don't know, who knows, but you know, just ideas running in my head. But let's take this thing back apart and let's take it apart and clean it. Alright, let's come over here to my messy workbench. Okay, so what we were looking at last night, you know, I was looking at this and I was like, okay, that's, you know, that moves easily, so maybe there's nothing wrong with it, and we, you know, we kind of wiped down the outside and we put it back in there. Well, this white one in here, that is the one that seals and unseals. So, and they told you to, you know, spin it around, take a look at it. They said you can usually see if it's sitting on an angle, if there's like buildup in there. If it's sitting on an angle, then, you know, that would be where the leak is. So there's a clip down here. That is removable, maybe. There we go. So, and now we can pull this plunger out of there and we can take a look at everything, and it's cracked. So that would be our issue. It is cracked through there, it's cracked all the way through the center. It looks like this chunk here is ready to fall off. So, yeah, that would be our problem right there. Alright, well, I'm gonna go show this to Colleen and I'll be back. Maybe we get lucky and we can take one of the other two apart and replace this piece. Okay, so this is the one that I just got the other day. The other ones are on here somewhere. It might be in the house, I don't know. But I tried to spin this off and it won't spin. We don't have any air out here, so we're just gonna around this with a hacksaw and cut this open. It doesn't unscrew, so Okay, so we got this piece out. Let's see. Spring-in is tall, so I don't think we'll use the new spring. We'll still use the old spring. And, you know, it looks to me like everything's clean in here. This groove that has been worn in here, you can see it's not in the new one. And everything I looked at online last night did not have that groove on it. So we're gonna put this in and hope for the best. Fingers crossed that works. Only one way to find out. All right, now the part that I really don't want to do, we're going to attempt to do this on the compressor. If I have to, I'll pull it off, but you know, getting this off isn't going to be a problem. Getting it back on, maybe. So like I said, we're going to attempt to do it on the compressor, and if I have to pull this pump, then we'll pull the pump, but because I know I can put it all back together on the table. I've already done that. Okay, here's the moment that I guess I've been questioning, which was, did I put the piston rings in the correct way? Alright. Right. Okay, so look at how close those are together. Those should be totally opposite of each other. So how's the little guy? We got one there, one there, one there. Those are awfully close together. So that could be part of our problem as well. Like I said, those are supposed to be opposite ends of the piston. You know, we should have one here, not right here next to each other. So that could be part of our problem as well, as far as how oil is getting past everything and into my tank. So I don't know that that's what would cause it to spray out of here. I think that thing being cracked is what's causing it to spray out of here. But that, how I'm getting oil into the tank and into the lines, that's that. So, all right. Well, I'm gonna go fill Colleen into what I found, and we will come back. I may run the honer through the cylinder head again while I have it off. Just a couple quick passes, and we'll work on trying to get this back together. I may need Colleen's help for that. I bought, you guys, if you guys have watched the video of the rebuild the first time, you guys may have seen it, but I bought a specialty ring set for this so that we can collapse the rings to put them back into the head. Your normal one you can't use because there's no way to get it off. So I had to buy this, it's a Pliers set that you can take apart so that you can get it all apart, get it out of there once you get the head, the pistons back into the head. So anyways, we'll be right back, and we'll start getting this thing cleaned up and get it ready to reassemble. So we'll be right back. Dirty fingers. Hit the button with the cleanest one. Okay, so I wiped out this cylinder head and I got stuff to hone it. Now you can see how far the piston comes down. You can see my hone marks, and you know, they're pretty much gone on the top part. You know, feeling in here like I don't really feel an edge there, so I think we'll be okay. You know, it's the same thing on the bottom. So, you know, I think we're good there. It doesn't feel like the cylinder wall is scored or in bad shape or anything like that. So I put some oil, compressor oil. I'm using the actual compressor oil. I put some on the honing tool, and now I'm gonna spread some around inside the cylinder wall. We'll run that through real quick, and then I have Colleen's gonna come out here and she's gonna help me put this back together. So may or may not video it. We'll see. Depends on if she wants to be on camera or not. So, compressor oil, this is from Rolair. This is actually who makes the pump. Okay, this is the honing tool. That's all. Like I said, I'm not going crazy on it because, you know, we just did this 10 months ago, so. Alright. Now, we'll make sure that these piston rings are 180 out from each other. See where that third one is. All right, we have the piston rings set much better. You can see that second one in there. I have the gap at the top there. The first one here, I have the gap at the bottom, and then this one I have, it's about centered with this hole on the other side there. You know, this top one I have up here at the top of the piston. The second one I have down at the bottom of the piston. And then these two lower ones I have, like I said, set up, you know, at the hole here. Oh, at the hole there. So, so that's much better. That's definitely an issue right there. I guarantee you that was causing a problem, because, you know, it says right in the instructions to make sure you set the rings like I just set them, and I didn't do that the first time and didn't realize it till after I had it all put back together. I was just so happy to get this thing put back together after a week of being down. You know, I kind of glazed over that part, I guess, of the instruction manual. I knew that it was in there, but like I said, it slipped my mind, and I didn't realize it till it was put back together, and it was kind of, you know, fingers crossed I did it right, and I did not. Alright, so while we wait for Colleen to come out here, I'll show you guys the ring tool. Alright, so this is the tool kit for doing the piston rings, and it has like every size in here, except for the size that we needed for the small one. These are the specialty pliers for using that, and I actually made one for the smaller piston that worked for us. I just made this out of a piece of sheet metal. So, but yep, that's the tool, and we will wait for Colleen to come out here. And we'll get this head put back on, and I'll get the instructions out. I had them out last night, but I put them back, so I know right where they are. They have our torque specs and direction of bolt, that, you know, there's a numbered sequence of which bolts you're supposed to tighten first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So we'll get that out, and yeah. So almost ready to go back together. I'm glad I pulled that head off. I was almost debating on whether or not to do it, but because that being that I didn't get that right check valve, you know, I was pretty disappointed and pretty let down at that point that I didn't want to continue to work on it. I was just going to put it back together and deal with it later. But I'm glad I decided to take that check valve apart and see that that thing was shot. And, you know, fingers crossed that, you know, that plunger that we stole out of the other one works in this one. And hopefully the piston rings being set properly now will make a difference as well. So another thing that I'm going to do after Colleen helps, I'm gonna clean this guy. I'm not gonna separate it. I think we're just gonna hose it down with some pre-cleaner and wipe it all down and wipe it out and put it back on. You know, when I rebuilt that the first time, like those things were almost plugged shut, like I said. You know, they're not now. I mean, I haven't you know, I haven't done nothing with it yet. And I mean, you can see all the reed valves in there and everything like that. And you know, there's a little bit of buildup on this one, but I think if we hose it down real good, this side I kind of wiped already. It had some buildup as well, but the holes to the reed valves and everything still look pretty good. So, like I said, I think we're just gonna clean it up and put it back together. Reason being is because I'm worried that if we go to separate that, that the gasket's gonna be no good, and then if we ruin that gasket, we're screwed. So I know when I pulled the first one apart, it came apart in multiple pieces. Now this one being new and only being, you know, 10 or 11 months old or so, you know, but we're still taking a chance. So I'm not willing to take that chance. We'll be back. All right, here we go. We got Colleen out here. I got the proper clampy tool for the piston rings, and we're ready to go. All right. All right, let's see if we can do this on the compressor. Ta-da! You did the easy part. Alright, well, that's it. Now we'll start buttoning it back up and we'll start torquing everything down and putting it all back together. Okay, let's get the torque wrench out. Okay, so the ones we're working on right now should be 27.5 foot-pounds. Okay, still set up from last time. Okay, so now we got that back torqued down, and we'll have to come back, you know, hopefully in a couple of weeks. The first time I did this, I waited a couple months and then I did it, and I'd actually waited till there was an air leak, and I shouldn't do that this time. I shouldn't have done it last time, but I did, and so we'll have to come back in a couple weeks and retorque those, because it says after so many hours of use of it heating, cooling, heating, cooling, heating, cooling, you should go back and retorque it again. So we'll have to remember to do that in like 2 weeks. So and we'll go through and we'll do that again and make sure everything's torqued down. So let's clean this guy up now. So I'm just gonna hose this thing good and use a little acid brush and just go in here and clean this up. Okay, fingers crossed. Well, I think I'm going to wiggle this thing back over there and we'll plug it in and turn it on and make sure everything works and there's no air leaking anywhere before we go ahead and put the back shield back on and our little side cover over here. Crossed. Nothing I'm forgetting, right? We'll be back when it's full to check in. I'm not gonna sit here and video the compressor running. We'll be back. Success, I think. Let's keep our fingers crossed still. So it filled up, it shut off all by itself. No air leaks. Prior to us doing what we did, I couldn't fill the compressor all the way up because it would leak from full all the way down to the point where it would kick back on, and then it would stop leaking. So as long as I shut it off before it shut itself off, we didn't have a problem. But if I let it fill all the way up and shut itself off, it leaked. And it would leak for, a good 20 minutes before it would stop leaking. So no leaks. I don't hear leaks coming from anywhere, so we're good. I timed it. It took about 6 minutes to fill, which before, when we rebuilt the pump, we were around 5 minutes, and that's completely empty. So that's awesome. We are back to what it was when I rebuilt this thing. And I don't know why this happened, but it shut itself off at 190. Before it would shut itself off at 170. So why it's putting an extra 20 pounds in there, I don't know. But that would make sense where that extra minute came from. Was that last 20 pounds of PSI that it put in there. So I am going to go in and I'm going to research that as to why it's pumping more pressure now. I don't mind that it's pumping more pressure, but why is it doing it? And that's what I'm going to go research right now. Plus it's lunchtime, so I'm gonna shut this off, and we'll come back out here later and see how much air it is held. So fingers crossed that it holds air. Like I said, I don't hear any leaking. I might hear just a little bit coming from somewhere, and you know, we'll see if we can find out where that's coming from. I don't hear it standing here, so but yeah, success. It seems like we're back up and running properly. I don't know about the oil spraying. We'll find that out you know, over the next few days as we use it. What I may do is I may zip tie a paper towel around that thing again and just watch that paper towel. And you know, I expect a little bit to come out here and there. That's what the breather's for. But you know, it was spraying everywhere. So you know, hopefully we're good now. And yeah, so we'll be back out here in a little bit to check over everything and just double check it, make sure everything's good. And if everything's good, we'll put that cage back on. We'll slide it back in place. I am gonna have to probably move, this is my hook where I hang my lines. I think we're gonna have to move it to the front here so that it sticks out this way instead of out to the side, because we push our whole line system out, you know, probably 8 inches. So my compressor has to be pushed towards the door another 8 inches, and we're not going to clear opening the door. The door will hit into that hook, so we're going to have to move that hook over and whatnot. But I'm happy. So we'll be back for finalization after lunch. See you guys later. All right, we're back out here after some lunch and a break, and I did some researching. So there is a small leak. After I shut off the camera, I sprayed everything down with basically Windex, but it was enough for me to find the leak, and it was nothing that we have touched. It's actually coming from the pressure switch. There's a diaphragm in the bottom that is leaking, and everything that I've looked up is, you know, you just replace it when that happens. You don't rebuild them, you just put a new one on. So researching that, which I had already researched that over the last couple of days. So I knew as soon as I seen it what it was and what needs to be done. We had already looked them up yesterday before I even knew that that's where a leak was coming from, and they're like $38. So right now we're not gonna worry about it, but we got it on the list of stuff to order. I'm gonna try and just tighten it up. There's 4 screws on the bottom. We'll try and tighten it up and see if that'll help. But it seems that like when those start to go bad, they can affect how the pressure is set. So like I said earlier, that you know, normally it shut off at like 170, and today it shut off at, it was almost like 190. It was like 189 that it shut off at. So, you know, it was 18 psi higher than normal. So I looked up this I looked up this compressor, and this compressor is supposed to be at 175. And I looked at how to adjust it. So we're gonna, like I said, I'm gonna hit these 4 screws on the bottom, and just see if we can get it to tighten up. We did drop some psi. You know, we went from like 189. I was playing with this thing after I shut off the camera. This guy down here needs to be replaced. He's leaking. So that's why I have the hose plugged in there. But so he's leaking. And then I doubt you'll be able to pick it up on camera because it's barely leaking. But there's this thing. Oh, I'm sorry. There's like 8 screws or something down there. So it's leaking. When I sprayed it, it's leaking from around this seal there. So we're gonna attempt to tighten that up. And then this is how you adjust the pressure. So, and it says counterclockwise to lower, clockwise to higher. And you know, don't listen to as I'm saying that it's not a bad thing, but like I did some research of like what happens to your compressor, or what's wrong with running at a higher psi, and pretty much it's like higher energy bill because your compressor's running more. It's more wear and tear on the compressor components, and it's more wear and tear on your tools, because your tools are supposed to be ran at a certain psi. You know, and if you're supposed to be running the tool at, you know, 100 psi and you're running it at 190, like, it's bad for the tool. I mean, it makes absolute sense. But it wasn't, you know, I can't justify just those reasons being like, let's just leave it the way it is. You know, I don't mind that there's 190 psi in it, but I know that it's not supposed to be there, so we are going to adjust it back down to the 175, and I suggest anybody else out there do that too. You know, my biggest fear would be that the compressor would blow up or something, you know, but I didn't find anything that, you know, that said, you know, an extra 15 psi is gonna kill you. So, but I still wouldn't suggest doing it. But you know, I have this thing kind of spun around into the corner. You know, I don't think if I set you guys anywhere that I don't think you're gonna get like a super awesome video. You know, I can set you over here, kind of on an angle. So I don't think we're going to be able to get to every screw in here, but we'll try and tighten them up what we can get to. Oh, I just got one of these. I'm going to unplug that before we stick our hands in here. So we've gotten quite a, you know, I'm not trying to over tighten this by any means, but I've gotten something out of every screw. I can't get to that back corner one, but I got to every other one. I don't hear it leaking anymore. It was leaking when I came in here just 5 minutes ago. So maybe that helped. So now what I'm gonna do, I remember messing with this thing once before, so I'm gonna give it you know, a quarter of a turn. We'll plug it back in, we'll turn it back on, we'll see what it fills up at. So it didn't really say, like, you know, how many turns it takes to make a difference. So this may take a couple of tries to get us down to where we're at. So I'll turn you guys back on when the compressor is full, let you guys know where we're at, let you know what adjustments I made until we get to the 175 that is suggested by Snap-on. So I'll be back. Okay, let it fill back up. It's shut off at like 182. So we'll do another quarter of a turn and we'll try that. Okay, so we did another quarter turn. I got the compressor to kick back on. We were at 180. So I did another eighth of a turn and we'll check it one more time. We should be good now. I'm gonna use up some of this air, just blow everything off and try and get some of that gunk and muck off of the compressor. Alright, that did it. We're shutting off at 175 on the dot. So, like I said, I did a quarter, and an eighth. So, and you know, I dropped it 13 pounds. 13 psi. So my math is correct. 13 psi for, you know, a quarter, and an eighth. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this cage back on, and I think we can slide this thing back in its home and time to clean up. So I'm gonna shut it off and unplug it, just make sure it doesn't kick on while we're back there messing around by the flywheel and whatnot. Now I gotta remember when we're putting this together, so the first time I put this together, and I dealt with it for a couple months, but got to make sure that the cage is in between the bolts, because the first time I didn't do that, and then the cage rattled. So on the bottom there's the 4 bolts that mounted to the compressor, and I didn't have the bolts sandwiching that up against the compressor. So trying to, there's a part of that cage that for years has been riding on that copper pipe that's going in there, and you can see that copper pipe's getting wore down. So I cut a little piece of some trans line and put a slit in it and slid it over the metal on that cage. I'm just trying to get in there and slide it up a little bit. I need to find something that can fit in there. So this is a piece that I'm talking about, that it's got to be in between here. You guys, can you see the marks of that cage going across right there? Before I had it inside here and it just rattled like you wouldn't believe. So doesn't seem like we dropped any PSI. I mean, it dropped a little bit, but you know, when I unplugged this hose, it started leaking. I told you I gotta fix that thing down there. I'll take a look, see if I have another one around. I think I'm out of them. But so it only took about 26 hours that the compressor was down, so that's not bad. You know, we spent a couple hours on it last night. We spent a few hours on it this morning, and we just spent a couple hours on it now. So, you know, probably about 7 hours. And it seems like we are back up and going, and yeah, cool. I'm happier now. Fingers crossed that, you know, we will be able to you know, keep this compressor up and going properly for a long time to come. Couple weeks, I'm gonna retorque everything. Now, unfortunately, to retorque everything, I have to take that cage back off. So I could have just left it off, retorqued everything in a couple weeks, and just put it back on. But I don't like it not being on there. You know, I don't want it to suck the insulation into, you know, the belt system, or, you know, I don't want to get my hand caught back there, or anybody else to get their hand caught back there. So it is what it is. We'll just deal with it. I'll have to slide the compressor back out, and we'll you know, pop that cage back off, and we'll retorque everything and put the cage back on and slide the compressor back. We just got to make sure we do it this time, because last time I didn't do it and it caused issues. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully it was informational. I know, you know, searching, scouring, you know, YouTube and Google has that new AI generated answers when you Google something, which, you know, I'm not a fan of the AI technology, but I gotta say that was pretty awesome, because any question that I threw at it, it gave me an answer, you know, an answer that I was looking for. So that was awesome. As far as YouTube videos go, there's a lot of compressor videos out there on, you know, how to change out that check valve that we ended up rebuilding. Like, if it wasn't for YouTube, like, I wouldn't have known that you could take those apart and clean them. we wouldn't have been able to take that one apart and cut this one apart and steal the parts out of it. You know, if it wasn't for YouTube, you know, I wouldn't have been able to, you know, figure that out. I mean, maybe I would have figured it out, but being that it was on YouTube, I was able to find it and figure it out, you know, immediately. But a lot of the stuff that I was researching was not on YouTube. So hopefully, you know, I know that this is probably a little bit longer of a video, but you got the first video, which was a rebuild of it, and then a second video of, you know, diagnosing and fixing multiple different issues, some of them my own fault, and some of them just normal wear and tear on the compressor. So, you know, hopefully somebody finds it informational. Hopefully some of y'all find it entertaining. But until the next one, stay tuned. Remember to like, subscribe, share, leave a comment. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out.